new amendment which RBI came just last month only, and I think uh, many places, this webinars are happening, including today also. There is one more program is happening today. This program been organized by the West India Regional Council at Andheri. So, friends, with the purpose of ease of doing business in India, of course, Modi government has done many things, but at the same time, ease of doing overseas for the Indian entrepreneur, RBI has came out with the new regulatory framework on this overseas direct investment. Now, this revised regulatory frameworks provide the simplifications and also more clarity on this overseas investments. Okay. And this is good morning, sir. So we recognize Pramod Bhai Shah, past Central Council member and past chairman of West India Regional Council, and probably youngest member of our institute. Thank you, Pramod Bhai, being with us.
Thank you.
So
we appreciate what you are doing. Excellent.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate it's a good knowledge sharing with many members and very innovative and very consistent. I'm very happy about it. And compliments to you and Dipti and your team.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So we welcome Mr. Bala also, who's also has a 4 decade of experience. He has worked with a multinational company, and he has an all-round experience as a company secretary and as a legal head. So welcome, Mr. Bala. He's our own person. He's one of our panelists. We also have a Kinjal Salvi, who's an associate partner of Mehta and Mehta. She's going to drive this. She also has almost 10 years of experience and worked in multinational companies also. And Mr. Alok Sharma, who's also a banker with 10 years of experience. And Alok Sharma has overall experience of 12 years and is more into capital account transactions. So we welcome Alok Sharma. We also have another Sharma, Mr. Vikas Sharma. He's also MBA and has 10 years of experience. And again, he has a very rich experience of banking industry. So we also welcome him. And we also have a third speaker, Mr. Amit Joshi, who's also MBA and has a rich experience in handling the trade, Forex, and capital transactions. So we all welcome the speakers. And without taking much time, Mr. Bala, a few words, and then we can ask Kinjal to take over.
Good morning to all of you. I have a great pleasure in welcoming you all for this particular seminar, which is the framework of the overseas direct investment. When you are talking about the globalization, you might have noticed year after year, there are a lot of Indian individuals and also the entrepreneurs, companies, they are actually putting more efforts in getting the overseas investment. Really, they want to become a global perspective, increasing their business. But again, the current government is actually relaxing a lot of things in the way of ease of doing the business. And really, we are moving towards and we are making a place in our international arena. And our presence actually is felt now from the developing country to almost, we have come to one of the developed country. We are heading towards the superpower actually. So in the light of that, the framework of the overseas direct investment is involving the various Fema regulations and also regulated by the RBI. So very recently the RBI has come. Very recently the RBI has actually come out with a lot of amendments and modification in the interest of the business and the ease of doing the business. One more thing RBI is actually now costed upon is they have given the more responsibilities to the authorized dealer, because nobody is dealing directly to the RBI. We are all dealing with the authorized dealer. Authorized dealer is nothing but an extended arm of the RBI only. So that is why we are actually having the ignorant people who are actually involved in the Kotak Bank and the authorized dealer, etc. And all, they will share their personal experiences, etc. Although the framework has been announced, there are a lot of clarification. There are some if and buts. There are some doubts which are there. I understand RBI is actually going to clarify in the days to come. So in this particular seminar, Our panelists will try to address all the questions, whatever is possible, but wherever the pending inquiries, clarifications are awaited in the RBI, to that extent, we will not be able to categorically provide the answers and clarification at this particular stage, which I would like to inform to the delegates, because still some more clarifications are expected from the RBI. I think with this background, I will actually pass on this to Mr. Amit. He can share a few words on this because he is from the authorized dealer side and he's got a practical experience on this, so that then we can move on to the presentation. Over to Amit, please.
Good morning, everyone. Hi, Mr. Atul. It's nice to meet you over the Zoom today, finally. So, thank you, Ms. Kinjal, to associate with all of us. As told Mr. Bala, Mr. Alok and Mr. Vikas is there, who was the correct person to comment on any of the part on the ODI per se. So, Mr. Alok, if you could just take over, or Mr. Vikas, any one of us.
I think, Kinjal, you can start with the presentation. So you take us through the framework, which has actually come out, then we can move on that. Yeah.
Sure, I'll start the presentation then. Can you see the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And I'll be taking you through the basic framework of what overseas investments we have recently that RBI has introduced. And like we can just touch upon certain significant changes. I can take you through basic definitions that have been changed, and basic, some concepts which have been lacking clarity in the past, which has now been clarified, but there are certain things which still needs clarification. So let us just touch upon some basics of what is the view behind government introducing these framework, and we can take up AD Banker's view later on after I finish my presentation, and if you have any questions, we can take it up at the end. Okay, so so the Ministry of Finance and the government of the Ministry of Finance, the Department of Economic Affairs, and the RBI has both respectively released a new overseas investment framework via an official gazette, which was notified on August 22nd. And this new framework has been introduced basically to liberalize and to promote the ease of doing business in India. There are several types of investments related transactions that were basically under the approval route under the erstwhile regime, which have now been brought under the automatic route. So the key thing to note for us here, while the while the OI regulations have been issued by the RBI, is that the IBI rules, in the overseas investment rules were issued by the Ministry of Finance and the Department of Economic Affairs. So now the central government has the power to regulate, which was not the case earlier, and this was a power reserved by the Reserve Bank of India. So we'll look at what is introduced. So we have Foreign Exchange Management Overseas Investment Rules 2022, which we will now call as rules, OI rules going forward. And we have, which is to be read with Foreign Exchange Management Overseas Investment Regulations 22, which are the OI regulations, and Foreign Exchange Management Overseas Investments Directions 2022. So going forward, I'll refer them as OI rules, OI regulations, and OI directions. And collectively, we'll refer all these rules, regulations, and directions together as OI framework. So let us see what has been superseded. So we had foreign exchange management, transfer or issue of any foreign security regulations 2004, that is the ODI regulations 2004, which are now superseded. Along with that, we have foreign exchange management, acquisition and transfer of immovable property outside India regulations 2015, the transfer of property regulations, which are now superseded. So going forward, I'll refer to them as erstwhile regulations. So the industry had been awaiting the new OI framework. In fact, it is this new framework which is introduced after following up with the with the public comments and feedback on the draft foreign exchange management, that is non-debt instruments overseas investment rules of 2001, and the draft foreign exchange management OI regulations 2021. Along with this, not just this, so pursuant to the introduction of the new rules and the new framework, the RBI has also updated the master directions on LRS, so that they can align these to the newly introduced OI framework. So RBI is now considered to categorize this LRS into two divisions: the ODI and the OPI. So ODI is short for overseas direct investment, and OPI is short for overseas portfolio investment. So by an individual resident, as permissible capital accounting transactions, which are required to be in line with this framework, and that's why there has been this change. So the next slide is about who this framework is not applicable to. Let us just also look at that. So this new regime is not applicable to any investment which is made outside India by a financial institution in an IFSC. So some area like Gift City. Secondly, any acquisition or transfer of any investment outside India made out of resident foreign currency account, the RFC account. Secondly, out of foreign currency resources held outside India by a person who is employed in India for a specific duration, irrespective of the length of or the specified job. And the duration of this stay should not have exceeded 3 years' time. And lastly, in accordance with Section 6, subsection 4 of Fema, holding, owning, or transferring any investment in foreign exchange or foreign currency, foreign security, or any immovable property outside India. So let us now see what is what is an overseas investment, and how is it defined under this framework, and what all things will it cover. So overseas investment means any investment by a person resident in India in a foreign entity, either directly or through their step down subsidiary or through a special purpose vehicle. The foreign entity must be engaged for sure in a bona fide activity. So this bona fide activity means it has to be a bona fide activity under the laws of Indian land, and also the specific host country's land. And if you see, there are certain things which are like undefined here. So when you say person resident in India, they have not defined the person resident, the term person resident in India. So we can right now consider it as defined under FEMA Act. And so these overseas investment by Indian entities have been recognized as, say, an important avenue for promoting global businesses for Indian entrepreneurs. Again, a step towards ease of doing business. And they are basically perceived as a medium of economic and business cooperation between India and various other countries that are happening. One of which is like they are aggressively working towards is Australia and UK. Overseas investments are also important drivers for foreign trade through increased exports from India, and also a source of foreign exchange earnings for the Indian economy. So let us see, like after we have this new framework, do we need fresh approvals for the erstwhile regulations? The answer is no. It will be deemed to comply with the OI regulations. They have a concept of grandfathering, which will be applicable here. Now, I'll take you through certain significant changes that have been introduced. Yeah. So some of the significant changes brought about through the new OI framework are, I would start with ODI and OPI. We did not, in the erstwhile regulations, there was no clarity, and we needed approvals from the communications and clarifications from the RBI, whereas it is now been clarified. Then we have the definition of financial control. which is again like a defined or clarified area here. They have introduced a concept of strategic sector, and basically there are certain they have dispensed requirements of taking approval for deferred payment of consideration. So certain things like that I'll take you through shortly. So I would first let us start with the what do you mean by an ODI and what do you mean by OPI? So this has now been a very clear area. So under the new rules, ODI and OPI have been brought in with the way, like in various overseas investment related transactions that were earlier under the approval route, and now they have been under the automatic route, which is again I would say ease of doing business agenda. The government has provided a specific definition for OPI, making it clear that such investments can be made in both unlisted and listed space. Earlier the definition, or earlier the percentages were not clear and the kind of investments were not clear, but now they have made it clear through this definition. So OPI and ODI are two different types of investment routes. Under the old regulations, I would say there was no clear distinction, wherein in the current regime at the outset the framework looks revamped and the meaning of ODI has been removed, as you all know, and the concept of investment in wholly owned subsidiary and joint venture to investment in foreign entity has been taken into consideration. Thus, the following investments should cover, say, 1 minute. I'll just go to the my ODS. Yeah. So the ODI now has been taken to cover unlisted equity capital, or you can subscribe to the memorandum of association. In case of listed entity, there is a cap of 10% or more of paid up capital of that listed entity, or you should have 10% or more of the voting rights in that listed entity. If you're holding is say less than 10%, but still if you have a good amount of control in that entity, that would be covered here. And under OPI, any investments other than ODI will be into OPI sector. So OPI should include investments which are basically less than 10% in equity and listed foreign entity without control. And the OI directions clarify that OPI shall be made with unlisted debt instruments, see any derivatives, unless unless permitted by RBI.
There is a question has been actually asked by Shruti.
Yeah.
Does corporate guarantee given by the customer by only one subsidiary outside India fall under the ambit of guarantee of financial commitment, for which Alok has already answered yes?
Yes, there is. He's answered it correctly. That
and again, following that, there is one more question she has put up. Any guarantee given to prior to these regulation will be taken into consideration for computation of 400% of net worth.
Yes. Yes, it has been defined in the framework. So any guarantee given to prior or these regulations shall be taken into consideration. Yes, it will go as the concept of grandfathering. It should pass on. Correct.
You already covered that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll move down to financial. What do you mean by a financial commitment? So financial commitment is under the new OI rules would mean that the aggregate amount of investment by a person resident in India by way of ODI or by way of debt in a foreign entity or entities, for that matter of fact, in which ODI is made. So further, non-fund-based facilities such as guarantees extended by such person resident in India to or on behalf of the foreign entity should be included in the meaning of financial commitment. So now this definition is similar to the definition of financial commitment, which was there in the erstwhile regime as well. However, by virtue of this definitions of ODI and OPI, any non-controlling investments which are less than 10% in a listed entity will not be considered while computing the financial commitment of the Indian entity. Okay, so financial commitment by way of guarantee and debt, to answer her question, is that the types of guarantees that can be issued and the conditions are similar to those provided in the erstwhile regime. an Indian entity can lend or invest in any debt instruments issued by the foreign entity, provided those loans are duly backed by an appropriate loan agreement and the rate of interest meets the arm's length standard. So in addition to that, the newly ODI regime provides that if the guarantee extended by the group company, it will be counted towards the utilization of that group company's financial commitment limit independently. But where the guarantee is extended to a resident Indian promoter, it will be counted towards the financial commitment limit of that specific Indian entity. And now when you talk now, okay, so there will be question about the how pledge and charges will be looked at. So the new ODI regime has relaxed the conditions for leveraging offshore securities and offshore assets of Indian entity, wherein by permitting creation of security in favor of overseas lender. So the new I would say the new framework has now permitted persons residing in India to make financial commitments in such foreign entities that have invested prior to or invested in India at any time post such investment, either directly or indirectly, through structures that which has 2 layers of subsidiaries. Right. So by this restriction, only number of layers of not investment into India prima facie appears that investment by person in India in foreign, sorry, yeah. So it prima facie appears that investment by a person in India in foreign entity, which invests back in India, can be permitted by the government. So I hope that this point is clear with the 400% question that was put up. And yeah, I'll just go through the questions. Yeah. So are you clear, Shruti, on this? Sorry.
Shruti, what is in your mind? I'm not able to get it. 2 layers of subsidy of Indian entity or foreign entity. What is exactly in your mind?
Hello. Actually, I just wanted to get clarity on the point that since it is mentioned that you can make investment in not more than 2 layers of subsidiary. So will that be considered as a subsidiary of Indian entity or that of foreign entity?
I think Vikas has answered that foreign entity and subsidiary level 1 can make investments in India. I'll be covering that part in the following slides.
Sure.
Shruti? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I'll go. So the next. So yeah, this is the slide I think should give you the clarity I think which you're seeking. So step down subsidiary or a subsidiary here would mean that. So the new framework is the determination of subsidiary or a step down subsidiary of a foreign entity to control. In this regard, subsidiary or SDS, I'll refer to that going forward, has been defined to mean an entity in which foreign entity has control. It is further provided that structure of such SDS shall comply with the structural requirements of a foreign entity. So such subsidiary SDS shall also have limited liability wherein foreign entities core activity is not in a strategic sector. This is what they've clarified. And accordingly, the investee entities of foreign entity where such foreign entity does not have control shall not be treated as SDS. And therefore, it is not required to be reported under the OI rule under the new OI framework. So now, as per the old rules, Indian companies were not allowed to acquire or invest into foreign entity, which has now been already made clear that direct or indirect investment in an Indian company should be allowed. So for instance, if you can see in this example, that if company A wanted to back company B, so company A will consider is in India, which wanted to back company B, which is in the US, which had an indirect investment in company C, again India. When company A had to go through several regulatory approvals, which legal experts kind of dubbed as not forthcoming in the past. However, as per the revised rules, the round tripping structure as more now properly you can popularly known this is known as the round tripping structure, will not require approval from the central bank, that is the RBI, if the investee involves less than 2 levels of subsidiaries. So I hope this answers your question, Shruti.
Yeah, the Prashantji asking one question. The word control for overseas entity, is it an inclusive definition?
The word control of overseas entity, is it inclusive definition?
Yeah.
Alok, do you want to answer this?
Inclusive, basically, what you are addressing here, sir, Mr. Prasanjit?
Prashantji, are you there? Can we hear from you?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Yeah.
My short question, Bala sir, was is the definition of control very exclusively laid down for application, sir, or are there any interpretational issues here?
No. See, this control part is very clearly given. Like in the previous slide, ma'am has already covered regarding the 10% criteria.
Yes.
So control means basically you will have more than 10% stake. So that will be considered as a control entity. If you say that we do not have any control, then you no need to report this step down subsidiary under the structure.
Under the structure, yeah.
Okay, so Alokji, without taking much time, my one short extended question.
Yeah.
Can you also highlight for everybody the direct and indirect control concept, which we have in India? Huh?
Sure. I will also put this this layering part, the ODI FDI structure, which was earlier not permitted under automatic route.
Okay.
So everybody is asking about like regarding the layers.
Alok,
Yeah.
Just to add a little bit, Prasenjit ji, you can also refer the definition of control being elaborated in the OI rules, section C of the definitions point number 2, regulation 2, in which all the definitions has been cleared. You can refer the C section where the meaning of control is very clearly explained, that what is the meaning of control, like how to appoint a board of directors in the company, and there are different criteria for elaborating the word control. What is the meaning of control? You may refer the same also for easy reference. Alok, please.
No problem. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah. So in the slide which the ma'am has shared, here if we take that the holding company is basically the Indian company.
Indian company, yeah.
Okay. Indian company is having a wholly owned subsidiary in, I'm talking about WOS1. Okay, that WOS1, if they come back into India, that will be layer 1. Now, this holding company, they have a WOS1. Under WOS1, there is a level 1 step down subsidiary. So all those level 1 can also come back into India. That will be the second layer. Third layer, it's not allowed. Secondly, if we talk about the first structure, the WOS1, they have a subsidiary back into India. That Indian company has another subsidiary in India. So that will be a second layer. I hope you are getting it. Indian company having a WOS, wholly owned subsidiary overseas. That wholly owned subsidiary has another step down subsidiary under it in India. That will be layer 1. Now this Indian step down, if they have another step down in India, that will be level. Yeah, no, that will be layer 2. Layer 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
in that structure now, if there is a SDS1 overseas, they cannot come back into India.
They cannot come back into India. Yeah.
Okay. So now the company has to decide, because RBI has only given up to 2 layers. So if the first level SDS is coming back into India, that will be the second layer. Under that layer, you cannot have another step down subsidiary in India.
It is
so
more or
only
less
2 layers.
Yeah, it is more or less similar to our Indian investment under section 186. The investment can be only made as the step down subsidiary up to only 2 layers.
Correct.
Because earlier they used to make in many layers. They have actually curtailed. They brought that Indian regulation. Probably it is in line with that regulation which is already there. The investment should be allowed only up to 2 layers. I think probably they are bringing harmonization between the 2 regulations. Yeah.
Correct. So all the direct subsidiaries can come back into India. That will be layer 1, and all the step down subsidiary 1 can also come back into India. That will be layer 2.
Yeah, that is right.
Fine. Control, as we have already said, the control definition, it is very clear. The percentages are given, and the rights to appoint the directors, taking the policy decisions and all all this is covered in the definition itself. So there is nothing which is interpreted out of this definition. Whatever the definition is given, it's the same thing everybody has to follow. So there is no ambiguity in it. So whatever is given in the definition, we will also follow it. And even the Indian entities also have to follow it.
Yes, Kinjal, move on.
Okay. So this seems to be like a welcome move to enable Indian businesses to invest in global companies having an Indian presence. It also enables Indian investors and promoters to have flip structures, which are being quite prevalent in the Indian startup ecosystem, especially with the tech startups, which are which had this difficulties in the past and should now have been eased out with this new structure. Yeah, I'll go to my next slide. Yeah, so now they have introduced strategic structure. So this term strategic structure shall include energy and natural resources sectors such as oil, gas, and coal, submarine cable system, and the startups of any other sector or other sectors such as which are deemed fit by the central government. So they may notify some in the future. The restriction of this limited liability structure for an foreign entity shall not be mandatory for entities with core activity in any strategic sector, is what they say. And accordingly, the overseas investment can be made in such sectors which are unincorporated entities as well. So now the AD bankers may allow remittances from ODI in strategic sector after ensuring that the Indian entity has obtained all the necessary permission from the competent authority wherever applicable. So in case of oil, gas, and coal, the respective ministries will be applicable, and the AD bankers will need to ensure that such permissions are into place before they allow such transactions. And there is this requirement that they have dispensed the approval for doing deferred payment consideration. So the new framework is permitted deferred payment of consideration for acquisition or transfer of foreign securities, subject to certain conditions which were not permitted under the old guidelines. Now, as you all know, that the pricing guidelines are now applicable, and the onus is now shifted to the AD bankers for ensuring that the transactions are on arm's length basis and as per the internationally accepted pricing methodology. So the pricing guidelines are now more rationalized and simplified. Under the old regime, the valuation report was required from category 1 merchant banker, which are registered with SEBI or by a chartered accountant based on the size and nature of their investment. So now under rule 16, the issue or transfer of equity capital of a foreign entity from a person resident outside India or a person resident in India to a person resident in India, or from a person resident in India to a person resident in India, is subject to price arrived on an arm's length basis again. And in case of like ODI transactions which involves deferred payments, it is clarified that the full consideration eventually when it is paid should be subject to the arm's length value in front. So now how the onus has been shifted to the AD bankers is they should ensure the compliance first on arm's length pricing, but depending on the nature of the transaction and the internationally accepted pricing methodology. And while this move kind of offers operational flexibility to the AD banks, it could also be like result in divergent practices amongst the banks unless the RBI specifies or guides the kind of principles which are to be used at arriving at such arm's length pricing determination. Specifically, RBI may need to clarify, I think, further in this area as to how exactly it is needed to be done.
Very, very true, ma'am. It is very important here now, because what RBI has done, they have asked the AD bankers to have their own board policy on this pricing guidelines. So just for your information and everybody's information, there was an earlier point regarding merchant banker certification.
Yeah.
There was a threshold of USD 5 million.
Yeah.
It is going to be continued by all the bankers, which we believe. Okay. Now, because see, again, it depends, like, because the merchant bankers, I'm not, you can say, like the chartered accountant is also capable, but still, if there is a huge amount involved, so what AD bankers are of the view that the merchant bankers valuation should be obtained.
Right.
So even though RBI has given up, but I think in the board policies, the amount, the threshold amount can increase or decrease, whatever may be the case, but it will stay as per board policy.
Right. So again, it needs clarification because even to determine an arm's length price, there are specific guidelines to be followed as to which which method are you going to use. Until unless that is being clarified, I think it will have a little kind of gray area here for people to determine ideas from here.
You're absolutely right, because different lady bankers may have a different interpretation according to them when it is left to them. So there should be some sort of a guidelines will be required according to me also.
Yeah. Shall I move further?
Yeah.
So what are the criteria here? We have approval route and automatic route. I'll just briefly speak about what does an approval route look as of the new framework. So the Rule 9 lays down the general rule for overseas investment under the automatic route. So it now states that subject to the prescribed limits and conditions, any overseas investment by person again resident in India shall be made in a foreign entity engaged. It should be engaged in a bona fide business activity directly again or through a step down purpose or through a step down subsidiary or through SPVs. Now, step down subsidiary in respect of foreign entity has been defined. Which has to be an entity in which foreign entity has control. Again, it is provided that the investments made through step down subsidiary to qualify as overseas investment and be permissible under these OI framework, the step down subsidiary shall comply with the structural requirements of foreign entity, which was only allowed in the entity engaged in bona fide business activity either directly or through one layer of SPV. Now, in this concept, in this context, the new rule seems to have an expansive in as much as it follows overseas investment into an entity engaged in into a bona fide business. And it may also be possible that to invest into foreign holding company through an SPV, special purpose vehicle, which has one or more layers in foreign subsidiaries, or as long as the ultimate foreign subsidiary is engaged into the bona fide business activity bracket. And the approval route again, what does so approval route also we have to look at rule number 9, which lays down the foundation for this and which provides that overseas investment under the automatic route shall not be made into company which is incorporated in Pakistan or including by way of say swap of securities, etc., or into other countries as may be decided by the central government from time to time. So I believe like the bordering nations has to be Pakistan and the bordering nations has to be the part of this idea. And the OI framework read with the directions, together with the directions, they provide that the approval of government in case of applications for overseas investment into say which has financial commitment in Pakistan or other restricted areas which central government has decided from time to time, or say in a strategic sector or into specific geographies which are beyond the prescribed limits, shall be made to the central government through RBI, and such applications should be forwarded via the OED banks to the RBI for onward submissions. And for the approval of RBI as set out in the old regime, And the OI rules also provide that financial commitment by such Indian entity exceeding US dollars 1 billion or its equivalent in a specific financial year shall require prior approval of RBI even when the total financing commitment of that entity is within the eligible limit. So in essence of these in essence of this rule 9 that provides that approval of say approval with respect of investment in restricted geography or a restricted sector has to be obtained from the central government, whereas approvals for investments beyond the monetary limit has to be obtained from the Reserve Bank of India. I'll move ahead. So there are certain restricted activities which are being defined. I can just name them. We should look at rule 19 sub rule 1 of this new framework, which restricts the person resident in India from making overseas investment in foreign entity engaged into real estate business, into gambling, which are dealing with financial products linked with the Indian rupee and which doesn't have RBI's approval in place. So interestingly, the government has now removed the restriction on ODI in banking business, which provides an opportunity for the Indian banks to expand their operations outside India. So by by either setting up wholly up some subsidiaries or JVs with the foreign banks, so they have now removed this restriction, and the banks can now go ahead and do such expansions. Okay, so this is one area which I wanted to talk about, that overseas investment in offshore investment in offshore startups.
Kinjal, I got one question to you.
Yeah.
Can you go back to one slide earlier?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here, I can see the real estate and gambling dealing with financial products, etc. But here, the lottery business is not mentioned.
I think so. Gambling and lottery should be included in that, right?
No, if you see actually our FDI regulations, when you say the restricted policies, there are actually two heads. One is actually gambling and betting. Other is actually lottery business.
Lottery,
I think probably including the private lottery and the government, etc., and the online lotteries. That is what they have mentioned. Because why I'm asking is now there are a lot of online lotteries and other things are all happening. Because there are a lot of things we see actually on the net and other thing and on the TV and other things also. So here gambling is actually finding a place, but lottery is not finding a place here.
Yeah. So that is true. I mean, yeah. I have not seen the word lottery here, and I always think that lottery and gambling goes together.
No. Because if you see the FDI, they are mentioned separately.
Right.
Because the two heads are appearing in the FDI rules. If you actually see the restricted policies, one is the gambling, other is the lottery. Yeah. So here I don't see that actually, because when they are harmonizing many things, I think probably, I don't know. Alok or Vikas, you'll be able to have your thoughts on this?
So see, anyways, it is given that gambling in any form.
Yeah.
Like I think everybody is aware about this app where people are putting money. क्या नाम विकास वो कौन सा ऐप है यार गेम वाला आता है ना क्रिकेट वाला
Dream 11
yes Dream 11 okay so Dream 11 while I was with my ex bank we had handled this transaction we got the approval from RBI so here what they have said this Dream 11 is nothing but a game of skills not a game of chance.
Okay,
that is how they have got the approval. So if it is a game of chance, it will be treated as gambling and this thing, it will not be allowed. But if it is a game of skill, it will be allowed.
Okay.
But it is again case to case basis, will not allow directly.
Ultimately, the point here is these type of cases will not be allowed in any condition without RBI approval. And RBI sees these things like how we are presenting our point of view. Because just like the case which Alok has given, the game of skills and the game of chance, this is just a difference of presenting the things. Moreover, in a prima facie, gambling, lottery, these type of things are not allowed activities. Which
according to me, that will not be allowed. That's what I also pursue. But the only thing is when we are organizing many things here, I just thought of comparing between the FDI and the ODI restricted areas, where I find that this particular thing is not here. That is the only thing. Yeah.
I have written down this point. So the lottery part I have written down. This it is not clearly mentioned.
Yeah, that is it. Yeah. Go ahead, Kenji.
So yeah, the investment in overseas startups, is it was not allowed, and as per the in the erstwhile regulations. Whereas we can see now that Rule 9 sub Rule 2 of the framework now permits the ODI into startups recognized under the laws of that specific host country or the host jurisdiction, as the case may be. So provided that overseas offshore investment by the Indian entity should only be in form of its group or any associate company's internal accruals, or in case of resident individual, the investment should be in form of its own funds, basically. So while this aims to ensure that the credit worthiness of the investee startup has to be the non-provision of the meaning of recognized under the OI rules may now result into uncertainty. So the restriction of use of leverage has to be comparatively riskier and volatile, and with no guaranteed returns. So this is some area which, has to be the industry has to be careful about. Also, there was one more point, that investment in the foreign entities under investigation was not allowed in the past, but now if you have an OC, you should be able to invest in that entity. Yeah, again, the favorite part.
So the startup is, defined under those respective countries and not as for the Indian country. I mean, Indian. Okay.
Correct.
So,
yeah, as per the host country's jurisdiction.
Yeah, you already said in your earlier slide also. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So we come back to the round tripping part again. So under the Fema, RBI did not permit Indian party to set up subsidiaries to its foreign wholly owned subsidiary or JVs, to acquire wholly owned subsidiary or to invest in that JV directly or indirectly, which is an investment in India. The earlier blanket restriction has now been liberalized, and the change is no longer it doesn't restrict such investment, as long as the structure does not result in one or more into more than 2 layers of subsidiaries. So the layer of subsidiaries this layering of subsidiaries will not be applying to banks, to systematically important NBFCs, to government companies or insurance companies. Lastly, I would just take you through what are the reporting requirements. So in the old regulations are to be reported in the form by way of Form ODI and annual performance report, which were to be filed every year in the month of December with respect of such JV or wholly owned subsidiary. No exemptions were there for filing of APR. Now, under the new regulation, the following needs to be noted: that ODI is to be reported in Form FS and Form OPI is now which are now both notified, and the OPI for any OPI investments made by anyone rather than individual. The annual performance report is to be continued the same way it was as on 31st December. The annual performance report would not be required where there is only one resident individual investor in foreign company, and he neither holds control on in the foreign entity nor has more than 10% of stake. In case of more than one resident, in case more than one person has invested in the same foreign entity, annual performance form APR must be filed by person resident in India with the highest stake in the whichever person has highest stake. Basically, they need to file that form. So basically, to summarize, the government has taken several steps again with the agenda of ease of business and encouraging investments abroad. The new regulations have brought so much more clarity into this overseas investment space. Um, yeah, I would like conclude my presentation now. So maybe I can just have a closing say to this, that the new regime simplifies the existing frame, which compared to the old framework, this new framework is much more clear, is what people are getting their views on. There are various webinars and various advisories which are coming out now. Still people are confused, even like we'd have certain questions, and there are certain spaces where AD bankers need clarity, the industry needs clarity. But the intention of the central government appears to be encouraging foreign investment opportunities for both Indian entities and for Indian individuals. So this new framework will go, I hope it goes a long way to reinforce faith in the Indian investors and in the government's commitment to promote and provide ease of doing business in India. Um, with these changes will definitely encourage Indian entities and resident Indians to expand their businesses in the other countries or other jurisdictions. And some of these changes, especially on OPI by Indian entities, have been like long awaited and should be welcoming by the market participants and the investors at large.
Yeah, only thing is RBI also given the more responsibility on the part of the authorized dealer now, because earlier it was not so, but now the authorized dealer has been actually given a more and more responsibility to ensure that the right thing is actually being done. That is there. So the role of the authorized dealer is going to be very great now in all these matters.
Yeah, that's true. Vikas, Alok, and Amit, you have anything to add to this?
Oh no, if you like, Madam has covered most of the things. So we do have regarding this new guidelines, we do have you can say almost all the answers. But still, if we want any confirmation from our side, we too are awaiting RBI's clarification on that. So if you have any queries regarding any specific this thing, your case and all, we can discuss now.
I think the chat box we have taken up whatever the queries have already come. I don't think there is anything is actually pending. But still, if the participants have any queries, etc., either they can share through the chat box or they can even speak to us. Yeah, participants.
Great. So Alok, I have a question. How do you see this new framework compared to vis-a-vis that old framework? Now, is it that government is also opening up, or probably liberalizing, or rather, encouraging the local entrepreneur to go and open a shop out of India, something like this? So how do you say this?
So definitely now you can say RBI and Government of India. Earlier they were more into regulations, rules and all. Now they are also giving importance to the business requirements. So accordingly, they have modified many things over here. That is why we too have challenges like why RBI has allowed this thing. So I will just give one small example. Earlier there was a restriction on this write-off of investment. Okay, up to unlisted entity can do the write-off up to $10 million under automatic route. Now they have removed that restriction. So any entity who is, say, I'm just giving an hypothetical example, an entity who is investing, say, $10 million in 2022, and in 2023 he's coming back and saying I'm writing off everything. RBI has allowed under automatic route. So we do want certain clarifications over here, because many things, many parts they have given liberalization and put every onus on the AD bank.
Amit, if I'm not mistaken, on going through the framework which has actually come out on this very recently,
yeah,
my understanding is the new framework which has actually come, it appears to my mind, even if the Indian company is not engaged in the financial services activities in India,
correct,
yet they can invest in the foreign entity engaged in such financial services. Absolutely. Only thing is, this framework is talking about that Indian entity which is wanted to do the investment in the financial services should have the 3 years track record.
Correct.
because I definitely see a major change in this, a shift which is between the old regime and the new regime, where
Correct.
I can see this. Even if you are not engaged the financial services, yet you are permitted today, provided you have the 3 years track record.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
One more thing to be added in the series of these changes, like the guarantee issuance. Earlier, the guarantee issue can be issued only to the foreign entity and the step down subsidiary level 1 as a corporate guarantee. But now there is no such restriction of levels of step down subsidiaries till when and to which subsidiary we are Indian entity wants to issue the corporate guarantee or the SBLC, provided they have the proper ownership of the subsidiary for which they want to issue a guarantee. This is also one of the liberalization move by the government of India.
Yeah, and another shift which I can also see here in the new framework, the regulation, I think Kinjal was actually talking about the pricing guidelines. When she was talking about the pricing guidelines, definitely it is said that authorized dealer bank has to ensure it is in the arm's length transaction. It's a very great responsibility which has actually been given in the new guidelines which has actually come, and that too also in the internationally accepted purchasing standard. That's what Kinjal has said. Correct, na?
Yes.
Yes.
But actually, RBI in the earlier regulation, RBI has prescribed certain norms that the disinvestment can be done on the basis of the audited financials and every other thing. And if there is any a little bit change in those regulations in the practical scenario, because practical scenario may be differ from country to country, then we have to approach RBI for everything. Like if there is any little change in the to deviate from the guidelines, we have to approach for the RBI. But now RBI has also liberalized many things in the hands of the AD. If to have a proper due diligence, and if they find comfortable, they can do their own.
Yeah, that way the intent which appears to be to my mind is the test of the arm's length pricing should be actually met without any cost, and also without any other pricing restrictions. That is what I think so, because that is the responsibility which has been cast to authorized dealer to ensure in any case the arm's length transaction has to be met. Yeah.
So, sir, just adding to your point, which you spoke about that financial services.
Yeah.
So, if that Indian entity,
Yeah.
they want to invest in IFSC, which is into financial sector, there this profit criteria is also not required. Okay, that the Indian entity did not have any profit. Also, this criteria has also been removed. So, most of the liberalizations are given in investments in IFSC.
Not only that, another thing what they have brought in is actually they also introduced what we call delay in reporting. Because
Correct.
that another thing I can see the delay in reporting, which actually can be regularized, the option which is actually available. And I think this is probably they are given for a period of about 3 years, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Up to 2025.
Yeah.
But this is a very, very important point here.
Yeah.
See, we went to this RBI workshop.
Yeah.
So RBI has clearly told under Fema, RBI has no powers to condone any violation or delays.
Yeah.
Okay. They will take your reportings, delayed reportings on record, but they have to compound it. So if you check, most of the customers are not compounded for any delays or many things which are still pending. So now what RBI said, we are introducing this LSF part. You opt this LSF facility, regularize your transaction which were delayed reported.
Yeah, this is definitely very important point which they have brought out, because as of today, no outward remittance can be remitted unless until this is made good actually.
Correct.
So from that perspective, this 3 years delaying reporting is actually permitted. That will actually greatly help to the people. That's what I believe.
Correct. And anyways, the amount is relatively lesser than in case of compounding. So I'll just take one example of APR. Suppose if the customer is compounded for APR, there is a flat fee of 10,000 rupees. But if we opt this LSF facility, the amount is only 7,500. Secondly, the time which is involved. Compounding is a maximum 6 months process. And this LSF will be, you can say, within 15 days, everything will get regularized.
And another thing is that when we talk about the relaxation, Kinjal also touched upon, there's a deferred payment is one of the very welcome move, rather significant relaxation which actually they have brought in the ODI framework.
Yes, this
Yeah,
both in
along-
investment as well as disinvestment.
Yeah.
Both ways it is allowed.
So, but along with that, there is this one relaxation provided if we say no objection certificate from lender, banker, or regulatory body. So while we provide that, don't you not think that the enforcement directorate or the special like serious fraud investigation office would be loaded with such requests, and the onus is being basically shifted to them to to confirm that they can go ahead with the investment even if they have say non-performing asset or say defaulter.
Ma'am, on this point, I would like to highlight one thing.
Yeah.
We have handled quite a few cases where the Indian party was under investigation.
Okay.
Okay, so we have not got any negative response from that regulatory authorities. Ultimately, after 3-4 months, the client was basically allowed to undertake the investment. That is what RBI has now told. The client has to, by themselves, they have to go directly to that authority, put a request to them, and they will, within 60 days, if they are responding, it is okay, otherwise it will be treated under automatic mode.
Otherwise it will be treated under automatic, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Achha, there is one we have seek clarification regarding this portfolio investment by resident individuals. Okay, earlier if it was a portfolio investment, there was no restriction. The resident individual would come, submit the A2 form and all the declarations, and we used to remit the funds up to LRS limit.
Yeah.
Now what RBI said, even if they are any resident individual, if they are investing into a non-resident entity which is unlisted, they have to obtain the UIN.
UIN.
The only liberalization is there is no requirement to file the APRs if they have no control over that overseas entity.
Right.
Okay, so this is like whoever is the resident individual, they have to just keep the UIN live. RBI has said nothing about this compliances and all. They have just told you have to obtain the UIN. We are still, because there are a lot of, you can say, problems which we are facing. Like recent, my colleague has also received one request where we told the customer to provide the form FC. He said, I am holding only less than 1% and I am not aware about the capital structure. I cannot provide you the capital structure. So without that, we also cannot report or obtain the UIN. So we are in the process of presenting our case, or you can say clarifications internally to RBI, stating the challenges faced by the resident individuals if they are now asked to obtain UIN. So likewise, there are many things which we are seeking clarifications. So once we have those clarifications, definitely we too are arranging presentations from our side. We'll have that part by, I think, in the month of November, we should get everything clear from RBI.
Amit, I also noticed one more thing when it is coming to the particularly the guarantee. If you actually see the STOIL framework, the guarantee can only be given to the first level. Now they are actually said the guarantee for the second or the subsequent level SDS is also permitted now.
Yes.
Of course, there are conditions are there, but the thing is, which was not actually there in the earlier framework, it is definitely another welcome relaxation which they brought in here. I think so.
Correct.
Again, Amit, sorry, Alok, how will the calculation of that limits be? Like the valuation would be done by whom again?
In the valuation part, again, valuation, everything is there. So we are also in the process. Every AD bank has to submit their board policy by October to RBI, stating that we have approved our board policy, and this is how we'll be accepting the pricing guidelines.
Okay.
So we are in the process. We'll get those finalized, and then we'll be in a position to comment on that.
Right. Okay.
There are a lot of things actually we have to actually go through. In fact, even in the guarantee also, I think there's one more thing what they have brought out is earlier, if you want to give the guarantee, either it should be backed by the counter guarantee or the collateral from the Indian party, etc., which was there actually. Now yes. I think in the new framework, they said it also can be given by the group company also.
Yeah. So, sir, here I would like to highlight one point. Earlier, the Indian company, the Indian entity which had the UN,
Yeah.
they could borrow the net worth of their group companies. So that has been given away with. So now RBI said you cannot borrow the net worth of your group company or parent company. The group company or parent company can issue that guarantee. However, the net worth, everything will be counted of that group company or the parent company. And that is why the new Form FC has been modified. And you can see that there are details of the parent company or the group company being included.
Yeah.
So there are, I mean, even for this thing, the client has to submit the Form FC, but on the portal, RBI has not made any changes. They are in the process of updating everything. They are also in the process of updating the name of their parent company or the sister concern of the group companies.
Right, you are right.
These things are still under process. RBI has not given anything in writing. We also expected the FAQs by the month of October, but still we have not got anything from RBI.
Yeah. So yeah.
Sorry, sir. This is Shiv Prakash Singh. I have one question, Atul bhai. After you finish, sir.
Go ahead.
So there is an Indian entity in which a foreign company has made investment. When the investment was made, it was by way of a share transfer from a shareholder who was Indian. So that time they had to file Form FCTRS. But probably that's not done, and they have been reporting FCGR Part B. So what is the way out if that foreign company wants to divest? So gone through compounding, or is there any way out? Because they have been regular in filing Part B, which is now in that computerized format. Thank you.
Hi, Vikas. It's Vikas here from Kotak. Can you please confirm from which time period is this? Like, what is the time period when the overseas company has received the shares from another resident individual?
No, it is an Indian company. It is an Indian company in which a foreigner has made investment.
I'm asking when foreigner has made investment in the Indian company.
This was about 10 years back, sir.
It's of the period of around 2010 or 12, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Then FCTRS reporting is a must requirement. It has to be done now. And when you will do the same, and after when it will be forwarded to RBI, because it will not be in the AD power to approve such transaction. Then RBI, as per my prior experience, RBI must write down to apply for the compounding. And then only the resident individual or the company can apply for the compounding process. FCTRS reporting, the initial step is to do the FCTRS reporting, which was not made earlier.
Correct. So now they should initiate, foreign investors should initiate and have this regularized, because when they want to sell back their shareholding.
Yes, then
again FCTRS will be involved, and that time that AD will say that, look, you have not done this.
Correct. And one thing to be highlighted here, onus of reporting is not on the foreign investor, but the resident company or individual who has transferred their holding to the foreign investor earlier in 2010.
Right.
FCTRS reporting to be done by the resident party.
All right, understood, sir. Thank you very much for the clarity, sir.
Any other thing from the participants, please?
Yeah, there is a query in the chat box which says, what is the time limit for filing Form FC with the AD bank in case of a financial commitment made in the form of performance guarantees? So now RBI has made it very clear that before undertaking any commitment, the Indian party has to submit the Form FC. So in case of guarantees also, before executing that guarantee, you have to submit the Form FC. Get everything checked in advance. Only the start date and end date will be left, that you can keep later on, but you have to submit everything on the date of financial commitment. So there is no option that the Indian party can submit the Form FC at a later date.
Alok, I think it should be reviewed as per my opinion. If we will go by the OI directions now, to by rule, it has been mentioned that Indian party has 15 days for reporting of such.
No. It is not for Indian parties. It is only for reporting purpose. You have 15 days.
Earlier it was there. I totally understood. But in the revised guidelines, maybe it has been changed. We will definitely review over it internally and we'll get back to company, because there is a little, sir Balakrishnan, actually the thing is this, there are lots of changes has been made in the guidelines. So we on a daily basis are getting some new things on a daily basis. So this point may require clarification either to my understanding or to the Alok understanding. But in general, the process is very same. AD companies, AD are required to have the Form FC upfront before the issuance of guarantee. This is in general process, because we cannot wait that the guarantee can be issued and it may be possible that Form FC will be delayed. Then there will be a process of LSF will be applied.
No, the reason here why I am saying is, nowhere RBI has mentioned that the time limit is given for in the new guidelines, okay, for the Indian party. Reason being, now we have handled so many guarantees where the customer has to give the Form FC in advance. We have to go through all the previous reportings. If there is any delay and all, then LSF will be applicable. Hence, RBI said you have to submit everything in advance. Because if a customer executes the guarantee and then comes back to you, then if there is any LSF which is pending under the UN, it becomes an issue. But yes, again, this corporate guarantee or the performance guarantees and all, they are basically outrightly given. So it will be, practically it will be always after issuance. But still RBI is expecting that everything to be submitted in advance. So there is another question, is capital reduction a type of disinvestment and which form needs to be filled for the same? Yes, capital reduction is nothing but a partial or a full disinvestment. And in the Form FC, there is a section G, the section G to be filled.
Yeah, hello, sir, I had a query.
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Sir, company had made an investment in 2 overseas subsidiaries incorporated outside India. Now those companies were making losses. Right now, it is in the verge of dissolution. Now, can I use the new regulation to write off the investments made somewhere in between 2014 and 2015?
This clarity will get it, because see, now RBI said that it can be written off. So that UN is still live?
It is still live, sir. Yes.
You are submitting the annual performance report every year.
Yes.
So anyways, if you want to write off, you can write off in this present year. Now, how can you write off in the previous years? Because everything audit must be completed for that years.
I think his question is that only. So those loss can be written off as per the current regulation in a current year, right?
Yeah, current year.
Yes, current year is allowed. So earlier, if a company is making losses since 2014 and if at present you want to write off, you can write off. But today, there's only one thing I would like to highlight. Write off under automatic is allowed only for equity investment. If there is any loan or any receivable of the Indian party, that will require RBI approval. Only equity investment can be written off.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Bala.
I think we are done with all the queries which are there actually, I think so. There's nothing I can see here, it is pending. So I think we can.
Sir, one more last doubt I had. Sir, could you please throw light on capitalization of export receipts?
Yes, that is allowed. Capitalization of exports is allowed, but the capitalization should be done within the timeline, the 9 months ke under, not beyond that. Okay, so then you can do it under automatic route, no problem at all.
So should I need to consider that 400% financial?
Yes.
Yeah, that needs to be considered. That is there.
That will be there. Valuation will be there. Everything will be there.
Yeah, all those conditions will apply.
Yeah, you to follow the other process also. Yeah. So, Mr. Bala, you can conclude.
Yeah, I think yet another good session we had today. The new guideline, which has actually come as Kinjal has put it, it will definitely make a much more liberalization when we go into the global. But of course, as shared by the panelists, there are certain clarification and doubts which are actually awaited, where the clarification will be coming in the forthcoming days. And only thing is very clear to people who are actually going abroad investing the thing. They should actually liaise with AD. AD will do their best to ensure that everything is actually in the arm's length transactions and everything is done right. As he rightly said, Alok has said just now, there are certain cases where you have to give everything in advance. You can check, because when the transaction take place, then nothing can be done. That is the reason why the RBI is actually expecting everything ensured done. I hope in the longer run, it will definitely do good. We can look forward to many startups, many investment which is actually going abroad, and we really become globalizers. Thank you very much for all the panelists whose presence has been there. They shared their valuable experience and they clarified the various
Thank you,
doubts.
Amit, Alok, Vikas.
Thank you, everybody.
And also thanks a lot to Kinjal for your nice preparations and very just to elaborate in the capsule form. And not only that, you are actually given it in the very lucid language which we can definitely follow and understand. I think it's a great effort put by you. Great job you've done, Kinjal, which I must
thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot to everybody. I think with this we'll close our session today. Have a great weekend. Yet we'll meet another session the next week.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you,
everybody.